Hi, welcome back with me, Rahma Alia, still live from Labuan Bajo, covering the 42nd ASEAN Summit 2023 from East Nusa Tenggara. Now, Indonesia has been playing a significant role in ASEAN, and since the challenges are evolving, how to tackle the problems are also evolving, the Indonesia's leaderships and contributions will remain important. Now, in the studio right now in Labuan Bajo, we have the permanent representatives of Indonesia to ASEAN, Ambassador Derry Aman. Thank you so much for making the time. We know that you're very busy throughout the summit.
It's always a pleasure, and of course, also a pleasure to see you, Mba Alia, and to be in the studio of the Sea Today here in Labuan Bajo. And indeed, I'm very tired, but very relieved
Yeah.
that the 42nd ASEAN Summit convened here in Labuan Bajo has been successfully organized and convened, and a number of significant and important outcome documents have been agreed by our leaders, and
Yeah.
also that the ASEAN leaders have close discussion and very close dialogue among themselves, and they can talk to each other in addressing issues
Yeah.
which are important not only for Indonesia but also for ASEAN and the region.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations. Everything seemed running smoothly. And also, the head of states looked very casual and very comfortable to each other. So, after this summit, we're going to have another one in Jakarta, but you feel very much relief. How do you see now Indonesia's role and also relations towards the other ASEAN member states?
Right. You put it correctly that they have discussed matters of importance of the region. In fact, for the global world, when we talk about economic development,
Yeah.
the economic growth, the political and security condition, situation in the region, those are very critical and important issues. But our leaders, the ASEAN leaders, managed to talk it in a manner that they understand each other, they feel that they are one family, they are close friends. So it is something that we hope that it would provide benefit further, not only for ASEAN, but the most important thing, Indonesia as ASEAN chair and as the host in Labuan Bajo, we can benefit a lot from this gathering of the 42nd ASEAN Summit. And Indonesia has always put ASEAN as a very strategic and important endeavor in its foreign policy. It is always being dubbed as the cornerstone of our foreign policy,
Yeah.
and therefore Indonesia has the highest commitment, the responsibility to make ASEAN, based on our ASEAN chairmanship theme, ASEAN Matters Epicentrum of Growth. So we are working based on that theme on how we can drive ASEAN to the future. And in the end, again, it's all about what really meets the interests of the people, what really meets the interests of Indonesia, the ASEAN community, and also the region, and how ASEAN can contribute towards beyond the region and can contribute to global issues which are also very important for the people in ASEAN, the community. So if you listen or see the press conference that we had at the end of the 42nd ASEAN Summit, both the Indonesian President, President Jokowi, and also our Foreign Minister, Ibu Retno, has emphasized and even underlined the importance of ASEAN,
Yeah.
not only for Indonesia, but for the region.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we do see that this is a nice ambience, but in the press conference, there are some quite stressing messages expressed by our President Joko Widodo, including he mentioned that the unity of ASEAN is at threat, or threatened. So how do you see the key challenges right now that is faced by ASEAN, and how does Indonesia work towards these challenges and addressing them?
The way I see it, the key challenges of ASEAN is how ASEAN can continue its journey, of how ASEAN can continue be something beneficial for the ASEAN community internally, and also externally how ASEAN, as I've mentioned, can contribute towards the advancement of the uh, region of ASEAN and beyond, and also to the global world, and also how we can also strengthen the existence of ASEAN itself, whether it's about its capacity,
Yeah.
about its effectiveness. It's always a question whether ASEAN has contributed towards the advancement of the ASEAN community, towards the interests of the people. So a lot of issues, of course, but again, during the press conference, as you have stated, Mbak Alia, it's correct to see that Indonesia, through our president, have put emphasis that ASEAN matters. It should be an organization
Yeah.
that would benefit the interests of the people, and that is the challenge
Yeah.
on how making ASEAN contributing in tangible manner,
Yeah.
in a concrete way.
Right. Okay. One of the things that are quite big as a threat for ASEAN is the regional security. Now, when we talk about steps, it needs to be together. So, how do you see the steps towards these, especially the current issues that are ongoing right now? How do you see, the progress towards all these? Because ASEAN needs to be united and one word when addressing all these.
Again, ASEAN, the key words probably is first is ASEAN unity, on how we can maintain this unity, ASEAN being united in facing challenges,
Yeah.
in addressing issues, in trying to come up with tangible results. And then about ASEAN centrality.
Yeah.
ASEAN should be the one who tells other countries when it comes to the ASEAN region,
Yeah.
it's ASEAN who has the say. And we invite other countries to work together with ASEAN within our region. And then ASEAN, in terms of its relations, its external relations with other countries, ASEAN, when dealing with the interests of other countries outside the region, ASEAN has its own views, has its own concept, has its own stance, which we expect other countries respect it. For example, we in 2019 we have the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, which is ASEAN's view and outlook on how we see ASEAN in the Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah.
So we have this strategy, and during our chairmanship this year, we are going to strengthen the implementation of the AYP, especially during our summits in Jakarta in September.
Yeah.
We will have this ASEAN Indo-Pacific Forum to implement the AYP as a forum that we would like to invite our partners to contribute in issues such as infrastructure, connectivity, economic growth, projects to be implemented, which is to us, to Indonesia, we view it as a concrete way on how we bring ASEAN to our people.
Yeah. All right. So Myanmar is one case that is posed as a challenge for ASEAN. The other one is that was highlighted during the summit was probably Timor-Leste because they came again this time as an observer. So Indonesia has been very supportive, and now ASEAN has been mapping all the roadmap for it to become a full member of ASEAN. So how do you see the progress towards that completion?
I would say the progress is very encouraging since we have a new consensus, if I may say, a new consensus during Cambodia's chairmanship. We took up and continue the agenda of how we can build or create a roadmap for Timor-Leste to be a full member. And it was clear that based on the decision that we had in Cambodia, Indonesia has taken the lead together with our ASEAN colleagues. We further detail the agenda
Yeah.
of Timor-Leste's way or road towards its full membership through the adoption of the roadmap. This roadmap will guide Timor-Leste and also all ASEAN member states on how and when Timor-Leste will be a full member of ASEAN.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Indonesia, together with our ASEAN colleagues, have come to the consensus and agreement that while they are not a full members yet, but they are Timor-Leste is an observer
Yeah.
of ASEAN, and
Yeah.
they are entitled to attend all ASEAN meetings, and they have the opportunity to speak during
Yeah.
those meetings, but they are not part of the decision making.
How are the progress so far? I mean, there are criteria that needs to be fulfilled by Timor-Leste. Perhaps you have, discussed it with the representative from Timor-Leste. Do you know the progress so far until they become a full member?
Well, this is, of course, we will have to understand it. This is the preliminary phase of the roadmap that we have agreed. And there are a lot of elements and criterias that Timor-Leste may need to fulfill in terms of legal matters, signing documents. By that, it's not only merely signing a document, but also by signing it, it means they are fully committed to comply, to fulfill the agreements that we have in ASEAN. So we don't have a crystal ball, but Indonesia is always in the position to support Timor-Leste
Yeah.
as soon as possible to be a full member of ASEAN. And at any time, Indonesia will always be in a position to assist, to provide advice, to
Yeah.
provide
Assistance.
consultation, assistance to Timor-Leste. And I believe all ASEAN member states will be doing the same.
Yeah.
But then again, this roadmap indicates when or whether Timor-Leste is fully ready to be a member. So
All right.
I would say that the
Not
road
not
path
this year,
ahead,
perhaps? Can you tell whether it's going to be this year?
I think an expert would need to see that.
Okay.
Because the roadmap is not only political, but also very technical in terms of the
Yeah.
economic issues, in terms of the social-cultural pillar issues, not only political security issues, but a lot of technicalities and administrative things that, if I may say, Timor-Leste would have to fulfill.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of the road ahead, it's clear, and it's a matter of Timor-Leste commitment and their united front nationally in trying to fulfill that. And also, again, ASEAN member states will always be in the position to assist them.
Well, Indonesia's role will still be very much important in ASEAN. But for now, congratulations for the very successful summit, for the two-day summit here in Labuan Bajo. And we'll be seeing you again in Jakarta for the 43rd
Right.
summit of ASEAN.
Right, yeah. May I just emphasize that the decision of President Jokowi to have our 42nd ASEAN Summit here in Labuan Bajo is very strategic
Yeah.
because we, during our programs of activities in Labuan Bajo, we try to come up with creative programs such as the
Finnissy
sailing
trip.
on the Finnissy
Yeah.
trip,
That was
where
good.
all the leaders had their informal discussions
Yeah.
and together with their spouses. I think this is something that we want to create the togetherness, the closeness of our leaders. And also by this Finnissy sailing, as President Jokowi stated in the press conference, it signifies that everyone is on board, traveling towards a certain destination, which is of course a destination that all ASEAN member states are on board,
Yeah.
and while discussing on how to achieve
right.
it. So again, with the support of the local government here in Labuan Bajo, West Manggarai, also the people and the community in Labuan Bajo,
Yeah.
they have been very supportive. And it was although it's of course very important and tiring event for us to prepare and also to to gain and achieve the outcomes of the summit, but it's clear that it's always a pleasure to be in Labuan Bajo, and with the first summit of the year of Indonesia's ASEAN chairmanship being convened in Labuan Bajo, we are also hoping that it would open more opportunities in Labuan
Yes, for this
Bajo,
island.
Labuan Bajo as a super priority destination of tourism,
True.
and together with Bali, will create another place of tourist destination,
Yes.
which is of course beneficial and meaningful for Indonesia in the future.
All right. Pak Derry, thank you so much for speaking to us and looking forward to speaking again with you, specifically September 2023 this year. Thank you.
Yes, before September, we have the ministerial meetings in July,
Leading up to that.
which is also in Jakarta. So I believe I will see you in July and in September. Thank you very much for having me once again.
It's our pleasure.
Thank
and
you.
that was our discussion with the permanent representative of Indonesia for ASEAN, Ambassador Derry Aman. And for now, that's the coverage from the 42nd Summit of ASEAN from Labuan Bajo, East Nusa Tenggara. After the break, the 3 Hour News Show will continue. Stay tuned.